Well, a very warm welcome back to the Laguna Seca circuit. And as you can see, a bumper crowd here. It sold out yesterday in qualifying. It sold out today as well. A massive crowd in excess of 60,000 here at the Monterey venue. And down amongst them in pit lane, Nick Harris. Nick, the atmosphere here this morning, as it has been all weekend, absolutely electric, and so nice for everybody to be back here in the United States.
Oh, what an atmosphere. What some weather. Personalities, some I know, some I don't. Brad Pitt, I think I know him. Certainly Matt LeBlanc, we know him. Others I'm probably a little bit too old to know. They're all here. MotoGP is back in America after 11 years. The conditions are absolutely perfect. Just a little bit of breeze. Otherwise, perfect. The crowd, well, they're usually fired up for anything when a man from their own country does well. Here, everybody, I would say, is supporting Nicky Hayden.
Nicky Hayden, there he is on pole position for the first time in his Grand Prix career. It's his first ever appearance here at Laguna Seca in MotoGP, of course. And Nicky has been going from strength to strength. As you can see, his position progression over the last few weeks: 6th in France and Italy, 5th in Catalonia, 4th in the Netherlands. Hasn't had a podium yet this season, but boy, is he on course for one today. He's set the pace in every practice session, apart from the first one when he was second quickest. He was quickest in the warm-up this morning. His race pace is absolutely electric. His pole lap was unbelievable. When he set it yesterday, he went 1.1 seconds quicker than Valentino Rossi. The Red Bull US Grand Prix, the 8th round of the MotoGP World Championship, and this is how they line up. On pole position for the first time, Nicky Hayden, joined on the front row by Valentino Rossi and Alex Barros. Row 2, Troy Bayliss back on form, joined by Colin Edwards and John Hopkins. Watch out for Max Biaggi from the 3rd row of the grid. Carlos Checa and Makoto Tamada also there. Row 4, Shinya Nakano, Marco Melandri, 2nd in the championship, remember, 63 points behind Valentino Rossi and Kenny Roberts. Sete Gibernau in a very disappointing 13th place during qualifying, almost a second and a half off Hayden there, as you can see. Loris Capirossi and Alex Hoffman. Row 6, Ruben Xaus, Tony Elias, Roberto Rolfo. And then row 7, Shane Byrne, James Ellison and Franco Battaini. Tony Elias there, incidentally, in 7th place, returning this weekend after missing the last 3 rounds with a broken wrist that he sustained in testing at Le Mans. And a bit of a baptism of fire to come back here, Nick, and ride at Laguna Seca for the first time on a 4-stroke MotoGP bike.
And he had a bit of a tumble yesterday as well. The bikes, as you can hear now, are starting up. Not long to go. Welcome back to the USA MotoGP. Let's put on a super show.
There is Brad Pitt on pit wall. There's Kenny Roberts, also riding in his home Grand Prix, of course. First time in the Premier class. He rode here as a wildcard in 250s in 1993, I believe. And there he is on the Suzuki, decked out, of course, in Red Bull colours. Himself and John Hopkins, this time Red Bull sponsoring the Suzuki team for this one-off Grand Prix here at Laguna Seca.
And Mick Doohan was right, wasn't he? If Nicky Hayden can get away, I don't think anybody's going to catch him. If he can't get away, if he starts to get held up in traffic and they start racing, whoa, we are in for an unbelievable race. And what is going through Nicky Hayden's mind at the moment as they all come back to the start and finish line? MotoGP is back in the United States of America after 11 years absence. And yes, they have got an American on pole position. The red flag is still being shown. Any moment that red flag is going to disappear and the American Grand Prix will be underway. The red flag is gone. We're back in the States. The lights go now.
Nicky Hayden getting away well. Not a good start for Alex Barros from the front row of the grid. Watch out for Hayden though on the outside. The two, there's a Camel Honda right behind him. I think it's Troy Bayliss, Valentino Rossi also up there as well. Loris Capirossi, I think, coming through on the Ducati, but it's Nicky Hayden who gets just the start that he wanted in his home Grand Prix.
Certainly is. Hayden does lead the way, and you've got to say they kept them on those red lights for a long time, far longer than they wanted to be. But Hayden where he wants to be. This is where Mick Doohan said he would have to get to. He's there. Now, what can the others do about it as they come up through turn 3, up towards 4 and 5, and then 6, and of course, for the first time, the corkscrew.
Wayne Rainey says if you get through those first 2 turns in the lead, then you have a good chance of winning the race here at Laguna Seca. No doubt about it. Hayden's gone already. Look at him, absolutely flying on this first lap. Valentino Rossi is trying to give chase. Barros is behind him, Max Biaggi as well. No fun and games on this first lap. They're all stretched out, trying desperately to stay in touch with Nicky Hayden. Down they come through the corkscrew for the first time in the race. We ride with Valentino Rossi. There goes Hayden ahead of him. Already the gap between them.
Certainly is, as they come down through the corkscrew. Hayden, Rossi, Bayliss, Biaggi, John Hopkins going well in 5th place. Checker, Gibernau, Edwards and Barros through the rainy curve. And then Mick Doohan said this is probably one of the only few places you can overtake here at Laguna Seca. Final turn into the left-hander. Everybody looks away to our right. Everybody on the grandstands is in there on their feet. Lap 1, an American leads the way.
Not only does he lead the way, but he leads by about 1.2 seconds. There's a man down there. Is it Troy Bayliss who's gone? It's not. I think it could be Alex Barros. Nick will confirm that in a second. Troy Bayliss is currently in 3rd place. And there is Alex Barros down, face down in the gravel. But, oh, there's a Movistar Honda has gone there as well. It could be Marco Melandri or Sete. I think it's Marco Melandri. So Barros and Melandri out of this race.
Yeah, I'm making my way down pit lane now. Certainly the Telefonica Movistar mechanics are running down pit lane. The Camel Honda don't have to do so. And the safety car is now coming out into pit lane.
Here comes Max Biaggi up on the inside of Troy Bayliss. Max Biaggi through to 3rd place. Bayliss momentarily relegated to 4th, but then back in front on the exit of the corner. John Hopkins
keep an eye on this situation, Matthew. Keep an eye on the situation. The safety car could be going out on the circuit. No, it's pulled in. No, I don't know if any of the riders are injured there. One of them is walking away. It looks like it's Marco Melandri to me that is almost walking past me at the moment.
Well, Alex Barros is on his feet as well, Nick, so
that should be okay.
Both okay.
Yeah, Melandri is certainly walking. He's limping. That's what the 3rd time he's crashed this weekend. He's explaining to his mechanics exactly what happened. And Fausto Grissini is there. He's got his arms around Marco Melandri. But I'm happy to say both riders are okay.
Nicky Hayden leads this race by 1.1 seconds. Troy Bayliss is a further 1.2 seconds behind Valentino Rossi, who's in 2nd place. Then it's Max Biaggi. John Hopkins getting a decent start to this race as well, just what he wanted on that Red Bull sponsored Suzuki this weekend. Colin Edwards just behind as well. Sete Gibernau making progress. Gibernau making steps forward with the setup of his bike in the warm-up this morning after that dreadful qualifying session for him yesterday afternoon, when he actually went slower than he had done on the first day. So Gibernau making some progress, and there is Marco Melandri back in the box, head down, and for the championship, that is big news here. We're going to see it again.
Alex Barros now is just absolutely walking past me. His leathers are covered in dust. He got a face that you wouldn't dare ask him a question. His pit crew and the girls outside are applauding as he comes in. I'm happy to tell you, Alex Barros is perfectly okay, but he is very, very unhappy indeed.
Nicky Hayden is getting faster and faster. He now leads Valentino Rossi by 1.3 seconds, almost 1.4 seconds as they come through the 2nd split. Setting an electric pace at the start of this race. Nicky Hayden 124.4, and Rossi currently struggling to go with it. They were doing 123s this morning in the warm-up, but the track is a lot warmer this afternoon than it has been all weekend. Around 40 degrees track temperature. I've just been handed a sheet by the Michelin tyre technicians who are telling me it's 23 degrees air conditioned, but 40 degrees on the ground, and that's warmer than it has been all weekend here, and the lap time's suffering a little bit from it. But Hayden now with the fastest lap of the race so far, a 124.148. It's 0.6 of a second quicker than Valentino Rossi, who now leads by 1.7 seconds. This is an awesome start to this race from Nicky Hayden. Rossi's there in 2nd place. It's Troy Bayliss, the former World Superbike champion, in 3rd. He's got Max Biaggi and Colin Edwards for company. Then it's Gibernau. Hopkins just been relegated by the Spanish rider to 7th place. Carlos Checa just behind them in 8th. Kenny Roberts 9th. Shinya Nakano 10th from Tamada. Capirossi. Rolfo having a good race in 13th place. It could be all change here in 3rd place. It's Max Biaggi up on the inside of Troy Bayliss. Once again, exactly the same place he passed him on the previous lap. And Bayliss, it seems, back in front as he no. Max Biaggi gets the better of Troy Bayliss there, and Colin Edwards is looking for a piece of the action as well. Up they come through the crest here. It's Bayliss, Biaggi and Edwards 3 abreast as they come down now towards the corkscrew. Sete Gibernau's joining in the fun as well. Max Biaggi shoved out of the way. Down they go through the corkscrew, and it's Colin Edwards in 3rd place.
Well, I'm in Marco Melandri's pit, and there is one big argument going on between Marco Melandri and Alex Barros at the moment. They are having a rare old argument in the back of the pit. journalists are here, television cameras are here, but it's obviously all about that incident on the bend that brought them back into the start and finish.
Well, this is the bend they're coming through now, and this time it's Sete Gibernau, Marco Melandri's teammate, making a pass on Bayliss's teammate, Troy Bayliss, and Gibernau cleanly through there to 4th place. Bayliss relegated to 5th. We ride in now with the man in 3rd place, Colin Edwards, who's looking to escape here from that group and hunt down his teammate Valentino Rossi. Rossi currently in 2nd place. The gap between Rossi and Edwards, 2.1 seconds. Rossi having just set his fastest lap of the race so far, a 1:24.207. It's still a 1/10 of a second slower than Nicky Hayden, the race leader, who continues to set the pace here. He now leads by 1.8 seconds. Nicky Hayden looking to turn pole position into race victory in front of his brothers, his father, his mother. They're all here, his sisters, grandfather, the whole Hayden clan are here, just like the old days in the AMA Superbike Series.
Certainly is. I'm actually in the pit at the moment. That's exactly what it is like. But I can tell you, it's very calm and it's very calculated. They know this is the big moment, isn't it? This is just what Mick Doohan was telling us. This is what he had to do. He's done that so far. Either side is the Camel Honda pit and the Telefonica Movie Star Honda pit. And things have calmed down a little bit. Alex Barros stormed into the pit and had a real go at Marco Melandri. He's now actually being looked at by the doctor. He's okay, but of course he damaged his leg, didn't he, during the crash at the Corkscrew on Friday morning. So he's being looked at as we speak at the moment. And Alex Barros has disappeared, but there was a mighty big dispute going on between the two of them, and it'll be just interesting to see what happens when this race actually ends and the dust settles down.
Fastest lap of the race so far has been set by Colin Edwards in 3rd place. He really is hunting down that man in front of him, his teammate Valentino Rossi, and he has to do it sooner rather than later because Nicky Hayden is maintaining his advantage at the moment. 1.8 seconds the gap, just over 1.7 seconds really between himself and Valentino Rossi. It's a really electric pace here from Nicky Hayden. Although, to be fair, as I said, the lap times really in qualifying on race tyres during practice and the warm-up this morning were slightly quicker than this. But that 1:23.915 from Edwards on that lap. He's the first rider to dip into the 1:23s. I spoke to Colin yesterday afternoon. He said, I said, what's your race pace like? He said, low 124s, no problem. 123, that is going to be a problem. If Nicky starts doing 123s, I might struggle. At the moment, it's Nicky who's doing 124s and Edwards in the 123s and really giving chase here.
That shows just don't take any notice what they say, doesn't it? Because what they tell you and what happens can often be very different indeed. I mean, they are giving big chase, aren't they, Rossi and Edwards? And Edwards coming strong, I think, in 3rd place, but perhaps push Rossi along a little bit. I don't think this race is over yet. It's Nicky Hayden races past me on turn 1, closely followed by Valentino Rossi and the yellow Yamaha of Colin Edwards. We then have Sete Gibernau, Max Biaggi and Troy Bayliss, and they're all safely through the bend this time. And the dust has settled for that first lap crash and the dispute between Melandri and Alex Barros. Perhaps now we can get back to the racing.
Sete Gibernau riding extremely well, 13th on the grid. Remember the Spaniard, and it really looks as though they found a solution for the setup of that Honda during the warm-up this morning. Just looking at the warm-up classification now, Gibernau was actually 9th fastest, but they made some changes there, and now up to 4th. That's an excellent start to this race for Gibernau. It's his first appearance here, remember, and so behind Rossi, he is the 2nd fastest rider with no previous race experience of this track. He actually was here as a spectator, Nick. We were talking about Kenny Roberts in 1993 riding in the 250cc race here, and of course his good mate at the time, Gibernau, was with him.
He was, and he said he wasn't 12 years old when I suggested that he was, but yeah, he did come
very
to
honest of him, wasn't it?
And in fact, I haven't got the sheets in front of me. I don't think his times improved, did they, from Friday to Saturday? They had a major problem. Obviously, they found some sort of setup during the morning warm-up. And you've got to say this is an impressive performance by Sete Gibernau because he's had such a miserable time of late. He's had a miserable time here up till now. But here we go. Let's see what he can do. Nicky Hayden again races past me. Rossi in 2nd place. Edwards 3rd. We then see Sete Gibernau now being hounded a little bit by Max Biaggi, Troy Bayliss, Carlos Checa, and then a couple of the Kawasaki's, and I think probably John Hopkins on the Suzuki as they disappear up to turn 1 under the bridge at about 165, 170 miles an hour before they break for turn 2, the Andretti hairpin.
Yeah, they call it turn 2, don't they, Nick? But it's almost like turn 1, really. That first turn is just a kink at the end of the straight over the crest. It's a really brave corner to take on a MotoGP bike, and then down into that Andretti hairpin. It's so easy to lose time in going into that corner. But Nicky Hayden riding it absolutely perfectly. He's continuing to extend his advantage now at the top over Valentino Rossi, although Colin Edwards is still the fastest man on the circuit at the moment. Nicky Hayden with a 1:24.158. Rossi 1:24.225 and Edwards 1:24.046. So, as I said, Edwards still the fastest man on the circuit here. The gap between himself and Valentino Rossi stood at 1.5 seconds the last time they crossed the line. I can tell you that now has dropped to 1.4. Edwards dropping 0.4 of a second to Rossi during the second section of this track, but picking up those 0.4 again in the third section. And there, as you can see, running it wide onto the rumble strip as he desperately tries to cut down the difference between himself and his teammate. His two Hondas behind Edwards, Gibernau and Biaggi, having a real old battle there. And there is that position progression for Gibernau, 13th on the grid, and an excellent performance from him up to 4th place.
Yeah, they race past me once again, and the trouble for Colin Edwards is, even if he gets up to Valentino Rossi, is actually overtaking him. And of course, while he's having these problems, Nicky Hayden is riding the perfect race at the front at the moment. Well, what a good scrap between two men that have not had the best of seasons.
Oh, there's a man gone, Carlos Checa. Carlos Checa is out of this race. Another survivor of the 250cc race here in 1993 and 1994. His first Premier Class appearance at Laguna Seca ends in the gravel for the Ducati Spaniard.
There we go. Didn't quite get to see what happened. It looked like probably the front end one.
Yeah, I think it was front end down there in Rainy Corner, wasn't it? There, very easily done as they come down the hill, slightly off camera into the corner, and then pushing that front end so hard, and that looks to have been the problem for Carlos Checa. His teammate Loris Capirossi currently down in 10th place, so not a good day for Ducati.
Now we've seen 3 fallers, Alex Barros, Marco Melandri and Carlos Checa. Happy to say all of them perfectly okay physically, mentally. Barros and Melandri, they're certainly not friends at the moment.
So Nicky Hayden crosses the line once more, 2.5 seconds now, his advantage over Valentino Rossi. It's his fastest lap of the race. Hayden into the 1:23s for the first time, a 1:23.984 for the American youngster, 1:24.5 from Rossi, 1:24.1 from Edwards. The gap between Rossi and Edwards now 1.1 seconds. That's the race that's on at the moment, really, between Rossi and Edwards, and then of course this battle behind them between Gibernau and Biaggi, and Gibernau just running it wide a little bit there, and Biaggi taking the invitation to come through for 4th place. Troy Bayliss just losing touch with these two now. He's 2.5 seconds down on this battle. That's not where Bayliss wanted to be. We've seen Troy back at his best this weekend and riding very aggressively. He was fastest in the first free practice on Friday morning. He's been there or thereabouts all weekend.
Sorry to butt in, Matt. I'm good with Carlo Priorani, the racing director for Honda Europe. It's looking good at the moment, Carlo, but a long way to go.
Yeah, it's very exciting. After, let me say, after 23 races, we are we are looking to get some good results, and Nicky today seems to be in very good shape. So for the moment he's leading very well.
He made the perfect start, which was so important.
Yeah, here, especially here, is so important because the track is very narrow, so it's quite difficult to overtake.
And Max Biaggi also going well. Max Biaggi also going well. Max Biaggi.
Max make a mistake before the corkscrew, and but now he's recovering well. So I think that he can overtake Gibernau. So we will see what happens.
Carlo, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Well, he's past Gibernau now. Max Biaggi, you've seen Gibernau there in 4th place. I can tell you that Max Biaggi is actually now in 4th place. There he is, just ahead of the Spaniard. The 2 Repsol Hondas then in the top 4. It's as Carlo Fiorani mentioned there, Nick, I hadn't really thought of that. The factory Honda team, HRC, sponsored by Repsol, of course, haven't won a race since Valentino Rossi at Valencia at the end of 2003, and now with a big chance of doing so here with Nicky Hayden.
Yeah, very much so. And I think you could tell in his voice, one, he couldn't hear exactly what I was saying some of the time because it was so noisy. It was perfect time because Nicky Hayden was just racing past. but also they're very, very nervous indeed about it. I can promise you that, because this is a big, big race for them. And
It must be a record, I would think, Nick. 23 races without a factory Honda.
Very much so. I mean, really quite amazing. And so no wonder they're nervous. And I think, as Carlos said, Max Biaggi, who's actually impressed me all weekend, also riding very well indeed.
Yeah, he's been quiet but effective this weekend, Max Biaggi, and now, as we said, in 4th place. I can tell you that Colin Edwards has continued his charge to Valentino Rossi, just half a second now separating Rossi and Edwards. That race is going to get very, very tasty indeed over the next couple of laps. Nicky Hayden is still streets ahead on his Honda. He's leading Valentino Rossi by 2.7 seconds. Here he is, the American 23-year-old, just 24 at the end of this month, and now leading his home Grand Prix. And there is that fight for second place. It's about to get a little bit more intense now, because Colin Edwards has got his eyes on it, and he's actually closing down the gap slowly but surely to Nicky Hayden at the same time here, Colin Edwards. Whether it's going to be enough to actually challenge Nicky for the win before the end of this race, we'll have to wait and see, but that is what Edwards really wants.
Of course he does. What with third distance now. And as I say, what he's got to do is get past Valentino Rossi, and that's not going to be easy, but he really is closing now on the world champion. That's the gap. There's Nicky Hayden. Now comes Valentino Rossi, very closely followed by Colin Edwards. I don't think this race is over yet, and it'll be interesting to see just how Nicky Hayden's looked after his tyres, exactly what he's done. But Edwards knows he's got to get past Rossi if he's going to have any chance of catching Hayden at the front as they race down through the corkscrew.
He's getting closer and closer with every corner here. Colin Edwards really has the run of his teammate, and he's getting closer and closer. This is going to be a real battle within just a lap or two's time. You've got to say that Edwards has now got the pace, and as you said before, Nick, it's a question of how long it could take him to get past Valentino Rossi that could make the difference in this race.
Through the start and finish straight they come. Hayden 2.7 seconds. Edwards 0.3 of a second behind him. I don't expect Valentino Rossi, but he might actually want to know where Colin Edwards is. I think he probably knows where Nicky Hayden is. This is a turn 2, the Andretti hairpin. Got a tight old corner. It's already Lawson crashed there very badly many, many years ago and break his ankles. They go up now into turn 3, the right-hander. This is probably the not the most boring part of the circuit. It's flat to start with, and then they start to climb, and then it gets very, very exciting indeed.
Yeah, particularly through this corner, Nick. It's a flat entry, but then it starts to camber as they go through the corner. As you can see, they just accelerate through the corner. It's really spectacular to watch. And then same with this one, turn 5 as well. The left-hander, it starts flat, and it really tests the riders because they lose feeling on the way into the corner, and they just got to trust the machines, and then it starts to come back as they go through the corner, then power up towards through turn 6 here, and then up the Rahal straight over this blind crest. And talk about having blind faith here as they go over there.
Hold your stomach.
120 miles an hour as they go over that crest and then grab onto their bikes through the corkscrew. And here's where we saw Carlos Checa crash a couple of laps ago. All that front end running away from you all the way around through Rainy Curve and then into this right-hander.
And now into the left, that brings them back into the start and finish straight. And as Mick Doohan told us, and as we've seen in previous races here, some fabulous races we've already seen here from Superbikes and Super Sport. That's the place to overtake. Colin Edwards, obviously, at the moment is not close enough for Valentino Rossi to do that. But if you're going to overtake, that is the place to do it as they race through turn 1.
The two Yamahas just taking a little bit of time out of Nicky Hayden's lead there at the front. Hayden was leading by 2.8 seconds. That gap now stands at 2.5. We've still got 19 laps to go. A long, long way here. We're, just over a third of the way into this race. Nicky Hayden is leading, but it's a long way from finish, and Colin Edwards is on the charge. The gap between himself and Valentino Rossi, the same as what it was on the previous lap. So Rossi just keeping Edwards at base, at bay. And then Edwards, as you say, Nick, just really pushing that Yamaha now as he tries to get close enough to Rossi to make an attack.
I think this is a crucial part of the race, don't you? Just see if Rossi can close a little bit on Nicky Hayden. As we know, Rossi just rides faster and faster as the tyres get, tyres have less and less rubber on them. Colin Edwards, we saw as they rushed down through the corkscrew, certainly had a few tyre problems just now. Certainly the bike was wobbling a little bit. This is going to be very interesting, and you've got the timing monitors in front of you. Rossi's certainly holding firm at the moment, but can he start eking back a few tenths of a second?
Edwards with that classic looking number 5 is closing, and again Valentino Rossi much quicker through the second section of the track, but Edwards making the time up through sections 3 and 4, and now the gap between them 0.4 of a second still, as it has been for the past couple of laps. So Edwards has seems hit a little bit of a wall here as he tries to get closer to Valentino Rossi, and Nicky Hayden taking advantage there to maintain his lead at 2.6 seconds. Both of the front 2 riders, Hayden and Rossi, setting 1:24.4s there, and Edwards with a 1:24.5, so just losing 1/10 of a second in his quest to catch Rossi.
We look at Nicky Hayden now. What must he be feeling? Well, sure he's not feeling anything. He's just concentrating very hard indeed. The great thing about this track, there's no real straights. You've got no time to think of strategy, no time to work anything out. I think Alex Barros said yesterday, it's like riding a motocross track. You're just being battered the whole time, and you've just got to just go for it. You haven't got time to think about it. But Nicky Hayden looking at just backing it in there. What a race it is from the former AMA Superbike champion, starting this race in pole position. His first pole start in MotoGP. Could this be his first victory? A long way to go for Nicky Hayden. Don't start thinking about that checkered flag yet, but he's riding the race absolutely perfectly at the moment as he comes back towards that start and finish straight. Look at the gap progression. He's just held it really firm between him and Rossi.
Well, it stands at 2.5 seconds now. Mick Doohan said it could be as much as 5 seconds by the end of the race. We will see. It remains at 2.5, but the gap between Rossi and Edwards has got considerably closer there. Rossi with a 1:24.7 and Edwards with a 1:24.4, taking 3/10 out of Rossi there. And as you can see now, getting as close as he has done all race to the Italian.
Very close now, isn't he? Perhaps he is going to make a move. Perhaps he's decided that he still has got a chance of getting near Nicky Hayden at the front, but he has got to get past Valentino Rossi. And as we know, that is not going to be easy around this circuit. Is he close enough, though? Well, they're not there yet, but the real test would be when they come into the last corner, into the start and finish straight. If he is close enough, it's got to be a bit closer than that. It's closing all the time. That will tell us if Colin Edwards can actually get past Valentino Rossi. He's closing all the time. Is he close enough this lap? If he's not this lap, I'm sure he's going to have a go the lap after.
Well, this is where Edwards starts to get strong, Nick. Valentino Rossi through this third section, and here he comes into the corkscrew. He goes. Colin Edwards passes Valentino Rossi in the corkscrew, and now Edwards is up to second place.
The crowd in the grandstand here are going absolutely wild. So much for all our technical definitions, eh? Can only do it going into the last corner. He did it going into the corkscrew. What has Valentino Rossi got left? I don't think he's going to take that lightly, do you?
I don't, but I would be surprised if he reacted just yet, Nick. Valentino yesterday saying that there's still a few secrets of this track that he's yet to learn. Brad Pitt and Matt LeBlanc there watching on. Just at the end of the straight there, you can see Edwards and Rossi blast through it over that crest and down to this Andretti hairpin. But Valentino Rossi saying that he did have some secrets to learn now that he just runs it wide through the hairpin there. And that is one place where you can really lose time. I mentioned that a couple of laps ago. But if you get the entrance to that corner wrong, it's very difficult to make it up on the exit. And Rossi just losing touch here with Edwards. And that is not what he wanted to do at this stage.
Here is the overtaking manoeuvre. Fantastic. Up the inside, into the corkscrew. Colin Edwards goes past teammate Valentino Rossi. We ride with Rossi. Let's look at Edwards.
This is a blind crest as well, and that you've got to know where you're going doing that kind of move. Obviously, Edwards does, having ridden here so many times. That's really the difference there between the two Yamaha riders.
And just Rossi running it wide just about half a lap ago. Let's just open up that gap now. Because Colin Edwards what's he got left in his locker? It's a long way to go. He's got clear track in front of him. He's won here previously. This is a big moment for Edwards. The next couple of laps is going to tell us an awful lot. And what about the men behind, of course, Valentino Rossi, Max Biaggi and Sete Gibernau? Perhaps they get close to him as well.
The gap between them at the moment, Nick, is 2 seconds. In fact, Biaggi's just taken 4/10 out of Rossi on this lap. Not sure if Rossi could be having some kind of problems here because he's going further and further back. We will find out over the next couple of laps. Let's keep an eye on these lap times. They're going to tell us a lot. Nicky Hayden with a 1:24.5. And Colin Edwards there with a 1:24.3, so 2/10 in favour of Colin Edwards. The gap 2.4 seconds, 15 laps to go. If he can keep that up, he will catch Nicky Hayden, and we could have a real race on at the end here between the two Americans.
Well, they're excited here at the moment. What that would be like if they got close to each other would be incredible. What, lap 18 of 32, as you say, a long way to go. We look further down the field, we see John Hopkins, you see Tamada, Capirossi, Ruben Xaus, of course, a former winner here, currently in 11th place. He won a World Superbike race here. And this is the battle between Max Biaggi and Sete Gibernau. And Gibernau certainly has not let Biaggi get away, but Biaggi is just clawing back the advantage over Valentino Rossi. There's Rossi, Biaggi and Gibernau. Rossi made that mistake, and Biaggi pulled back 0.4 of a second on the last lap. Rossi really could come under quite a little bit of pressure from those two. But the man who leads the way, and imperiously leads the way at the moment, is Nicky Hayden. Now Colin Edwards and Valentino Rossi as they race down from the corkscrew towards the rainy curve. And it'll be very interesting to see what the times are when they come back through the start and finish, just to see if Colin Edwards has eked out any of those few precious seconds or milliseconds as they come into the left-hander. This brings them back into the start and finish straight, and they cross the line now.
Well, Edwards had taken 2/10 out of Nicky Hayden on the previous lap. I think it's going to be something similar this time around. As they cross the line, we look, and yes, it is. It's 2.1 seconds the difference. In fact, Edwards taking just over 2/10 out of Hayden there. At this rate, he's going to catch him. We're in the high 124s here. Nicky Hayden 124.7. He's done 124.7s for the past 2 or 3 laps now, and he's going to have to step the pace up here if he's not going to get caught. James Ellison here is about to be passed. There is Ellison on the WCM, and he's on a back marker. He knows, though, there's a look over the shoulder. He's seen Nicky Hayden, he's seen the blue flags, and I'm sure that there's not going to be problems here. James Ellison, a very experienced rider and a very quick rider as well, just unfortunate to be on the wrong machinery.
I'm actually in the Yamaha pit now. Always very, very calm indeed, isn't it? But everybody looking at the big screen. There's a big screen behind us, and just seeing if Colin Edwards is pulling back that advantage. I'll just have to get a word with David O'Grivio. No, he's just put his headphones back on, and he's back looking at the screens. You can't really blame him. He's got a race to run, hasn't he? We'll see if we can get a word with him a little bit later on. But Colin Edwards are just looking at his board. They're telling him obviously in second place, and they're telling us the gap now is 1.9 seconds. 1.9 seconds down on the race leader, Nicky Hayden.
Yeah,
plus 2.1 over Valentino Rossi. That's what the board's telling us.
Yeah, that's completely accurate, Nick. 1.9 seconds the gap between Hayden and Edwards. But I'll be interested to see what Nicky Hayden's been told, because he needs to get a move on here. It's 1.8 seconds now. Edwards taking out another 10th through the first section of this lap. Nicky Hayden's really got to be careful here, because this lead that he's worked so hard to stretch out over the opening laps could be diminishing. And Nick, this is when tyre problems could come in, or not necessarily problems, but tyre wear becomes a factor. Another 124.7 from Hayden, another 124.4 from Colin Edwards. This is the way it's been for the past, 3 or 4 laps now, and with 13 laps to go, if this continues, Hayden is going to be caught and passed by Colin Edwards.
And let's be really honest, we've seen Nicky Hayden fade, haven't we, in races quite a few times this season. In Assen, he faded mid-race, then came back into the race. But Nicky Hayden has faded in races that he's been doing very well, and he's had some good podium positions and then faded away from them. Is he doing the same? There's the longest distance between the Yamaha pit and the Repsol Honda pit. Well, about halfway down. Let's see what they're going to say down in Nicky Hayden's pit when I get there.
The other thing is as well, Nicky Hayden really gives his tyres a hard time. That backing it in style, it's very, very effective around this Laguna Seca circuit. There's no doubt about it. But Nicky Hayden has been criticised in some quarters that he's got to change that style a little bit more to a little bit more of a European style, pick his corner speed up a little bit more, because as well as losing time at some tracks, he also gives his tyres some real stick, and over the last few laps that can count. But Hayden reacts there. Oh, that's an excellent lap from Nicky Hayden. 124.4, 124.8 from Edwards. Edwards presumably making a mistake on that last lap, but no doubt about it, Nicky Hayden has got his finger out once again, and Hayden has extended his lead back out to just over 2 seconds from Colin Edwards. So just as we're talking about Hayden fading in the second half.
There you go. And I tell you, it's standing in front of me, not a yard away. I'm not going to speak to him because he's got his head bowed as Nicky Hayden's dad, Earl. And he is living every single inch, metre, mile, kilometre of this race. He's got his head bowed. He's dead. Look, but he came away from the pit box after the lap. You had said such an excellent lap from Nicky. And he just smiled briefly before the head went back down. What is interesting here, that the pit box is very close to that first bend. They don't have their signalling boards here because it's too close for the riders to see. So in fact, Nicky Hayden's signalling board is quite a way up pit lane, in the middle of pit lane, so they're obviously communicating by radio and telling them exactly what to put on it. But we're so close to turn one, the first turn, the left-hander that comes in, they can't put their signalling boards out there. Both Honda, the Repsol Honda, certainly Camel Honda also, and I think probably Telefonica Movistar also don't hang their boards out so close to that last bend.
Well, it's interesting you say that about Nicky Hayden's dad, Nick. It's been a tough old day for Earl Hayden this morning. Saw his two sons, Tommy and Roger Lee, in the Superstock race this morning. Tommy crashing out a couple of laps from the end after running into a back marker when fighting for the win with Jason DeSalvo and Aaron Yates, and Roger Lee coming across the line in third place. What an emotional day for Earl Hayden. Watching this now, his middle son Nicky leading the MotoGP race, the first time back in the United States for Grand Prix racing since 1994.
I just got to tell you about Earl. He's just sucking in breath. You can see his chest pumping. He's got his head bowed. And he is so nervous. Again, he came away and looked at the last lap times, and he just had a little glint in his eye, just a little smile. I think he knows his son is never going to have a better chance of winning a MotoGP Grand Prix. What a place to do it in his homeland in the US.
Well, that glint in his eye will be representative of the extra tenth of a second that Hayden took out of Edwards again on that last lap, 1:24.6 this time from Nicky Hayden. Slightly slower, 2/10 slower than his previous lap, but a tenth quicker, crucially, than Colin Edwards. Valentino Rossi has lost touch with Edwards almost completely. He's now 2 seconds adrift of the American. Then Max Biaggi, who didn't close any more the gap to Rossi in third place on that previous lap, 1:24.6 from Max Biaggi, and then the men behind are all in the 1:25. Sete Gibernau, Troy Bayliss, John Hopkins and Shinya Nakano. We just got a glimpse of that battle going on there further down the pack.
I've got to tell you, Earl Hayden, he's got his own stopwatch. He's timing Nicky with the thumb on the stopwatch, and then he goes to check the timing screen, but he's just checking that everybody's got it smack on.
1:24.8 this time from Nicky Hayden, 24.9 from Colin Edwards. Another tenth in favour of Hayden. The lap times are slightly higher than we expected, and I really do think that this extra track temperature here must be well in excess of 40 degrees now. I think that's really played a crucial part here, and tyre wear will be important in the final stages of this race, and it's going to be how they manage it. This track does suit an aggressive riding style, and that is what Nicky Hayden has got. Don't think there's any doubt about that. The bike sliding around on the entries and the exits of the corners, really nowhere to get a rest, especially even the straight here isn't really a straight. It's got that nasty kink and rise in it at the end, and there's no chance to get your breath, and you've got to be on top of this bike the whole way around. Here's Colin Edwards now as we go through the corkscrew once again. Look at that left and then right, and the drop all the way down. Really difficult to appreciate just how steep that is unless you're going to stand right in it, as we did yesterday morning, Nick. It's a really awesome, breathtaking corner, isn't it?
Yeah, they're telling, I found at Nicky Hayden's board now, 2.3 seconds. They're telling 8 laps to go, plus 2.3, Colin, in big yellow letters. He doesn't need telling.
We ride with Colin Edwards in second place on that Yamaha, sporting those wonderful Yamaha USA yellow and black colours, sported, of course, in the late 70s and early 80s by Kenny Roberts Sr., the first of the American dirt trackers to come over, and of course the likes of Wayne Rainey, Eddie Lawson, Randy Mamola, Doug Chandler all followed him across to Europe with that spectacular sliding style, and how fitting that it is two Americans. Edwards actually a former motocrosser, but Nicky Hayden, former dirt tracker, just one title short of an AMA Grand Slam, and here he is sliding that Honda around here, as Kenny Roberts would love to see. I'm sure he is enjoying this on pit wall down there, Nick. He'd be a bit disappointed. Shane Byrne down there in 16th place, and his own son Kenny Jr. in 15th place, but I'm sure that Kenny Roberts will be delighted to see another dirt tracker, Nicky Hayden, come through and really establish himself on the MotoGP scene.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Kenny opened the way in the late 70s, and then they dominated races in the 80s, up into the 90s, and there has been a big gap. Kenny Roberts, his son, won it in the year 2000, but since then, the American, he was the last winner of a Premier Class Grand Prix, the last American winner for Premier Class Grand Prix, I think Motegi in the year 2000, and it really has been a barren time for the Americans. But this is the new breed, isn't it? It's Nicky Hayden, there's John Hopkins, and of course there's Colin Edwards, and again, they're brought up on those dirt tracks, and I'm sure Kenny Roberts will be absolutely delighted. We spoke to Kenny, of course, didn't we, earlier, just before the race started, and he was very, very proud about the Grand Prix, and I think he'd be very proud that perhaps an American is going to win the Grand Prix. I'm sure he would have wanted it to be his son, but his son it isn't. But if it's not going to be his son, Nicky Hayden doing it will bring him great pleasure. And the crowd here, I tell you, every single one of them in the grandstand on the start and finish straight is on their feet. Nobody's sitting down. They wouldn't be allowed to watch football at Manchester United, but they're allowed to watch Grand Prix motorcycle racing at Laguna Seca.
Well, this Laguna track, absolutely ideal for this as well. And the dirt track style, that sliding style, as I mentioned before, because of the way the bike needs to be handled on the entry and the exit to the corners here. But really, that's not the case at a lot of European circuits, and it's becoming less and less so with the new technology, engine management systems and fly-by-wire technology and all the rest of it. Of course, the tyres are really evolving as well. There's so much edge grip now from these Michelins as well that allows people like Valentino Rossi to make the most of his 250cc style. Rossi, of course, has learnt to slide it as well. He's got the whole package, but guys like Max Biaggi benefit more from the way that MotoGP is going at the moment. Nicky Hayden is working at this track, but he really will in the future have to adopt his style a little bit more if he's going to convert that form to European circuits and really become a force to be reckoned with in the way that the former dirt trackers before him in the past on those 500s, like Kenny Roberts, like Wayne Rainey, Mick Doohan as well, of course, all did before him.
And they're just telling Nicky Hayden as Colin Edwards flashes through, 6 to go, 2-second gap between him and Colin Edwards. That's what the board's saying. What do the times say?
Yeah, it's 2 seconds between Hayden and Edwards, Nick. It stayed at that for quite a while. That's probably Nicky Hayden's slowest lap in quite some time, a 1:24.9. 7 laps to go here. Perhaps a slight lack of concentration from Nicky. It's more than understandable to lose a couple of tenths in a lap. And as I say, 1:24.9 from Hayden, 1:24.7 from Edwards. So 2 tenths in Edwards' favour there. We keep an eye on that. It's coming down ever so slightly. And we will now keep an eye on this lap because this could be the crucial one with 7 laps to go. Edwards has got to start making inroads again now towards the end of this race if he's going to challenge Nicky Hayden. He's not made the progress that he did at the midpoint here. Rossi's on his own in 3rd place at the moment, still holding off Max Biaggi. Rossi there with a 1:24.8, quicker than the race leader Nicky Hayden and quicker than the man behind him, crucially as well, Max Biaggi. 1.8 seconds the gaps between Rossi and Biaggi in that battle for 3rd place. And I can tell you, Gibernau is a further second behind Max Biaggi, and then Bayliss a full 14 seconds behind Gibernau down in 6th place. And this is the battle for 6th place. There's quite a few riders in it. Bayliss there, John Hopkins as well, Makoto Tamada, Shinya Nakano and Loris Capirossi, who had a bout of gastroenteritis on Friday afternoon. He missed most of the second free practice session on Friday afternoon. He still wasn't 100% yesterday, and he did really well actually to qualify in 14th place after only completing a few laps, and doing well to stick it out in this race as well. This must be a grueling last section of the race for Capirossi.
Errol Hayden is losing years by the second here.
We're just watching Shinya Nakano there go past John Hopkins, Nick. I think we're on board. Oh, in fact, it was Makoto Tamada. We're on board there with Hopkins down the end of that straight there, and Makoto Tamada in his first race at this track, diving past Hopkins and then holding his line through that Andretti hairpin.
Yeah, not a bad ride by Tamada, isn't it? He's had a miserable season so far, but he's going to score some points here. I think that's very important for him. And you've got to say on Valentino Rossi, if he finishes 3rd in the race, which one would imagine he will, I don't think he'd be too disappointed. If he's a vital World Championship points, the 2 men finishing in front of him, Colin Edwards and Nicky Hayden, aren't men that are going to challenge him for the championship this year anyway. And so, really, that's it. I'm just looking at Nicky Hayden's board now, telling him 2.1 with 4 laps to go, 2.1. So he's holding that advantage absolutely perfectly. Everybody cranes their heads away to the right. We just wait to see Nicky Hayden come to view. Here he goes, number 69, crosses the line, 4 laps to go for Nicky Hayden. He's so close to winning the US Grand Prix here at Laguna Seca as Max Biaggi and Sete Gibernau also race their way through. Colin Edwards, one would imagine, is going to have to settle for 2nd. Valentino Rossi not too disappointed in 3rd place. What a 4 lap show this is going to be for Nicky Hayden.
Really got to keep his focus here. Nicky Hayden has done ever so well to do that. Probably just lost it a little bit on the last lap with that 24.9. He's back down below 24.7 this time, a 24.6 for Nicky Hayden, 24.8 for Edwards and for Rossi, and then a 25 dead for Max Biaggi down in 4th place. So Hayden just holding an advantage, taking just over a 10th of a second back from Colin Edwards on that previous lap, and it looks as though Hayden has got just enough to hold this advantage now for the remaining 5 laps. Just over 10 miles separate Nicky Hayden from his first ever MotoGP victory. It's been an absolutely stunning weekend from the youngster. It just got better and better. He was 2nd quickest in that first free practice, then quickest in 2nd free practice, quickest in 3rd free practice, and then quickest in qualifying yesterday. In the warm-up again this morning. It's going to be almost a full house for Nicky Hayden now in the race.
Just with Carlo Fiorani now. I can see he's got his hands behind his back, but his thumbs are twitching. He's getting very close to it, Carlo.
Yeah, we are very close. Just 4 laps to go. Colin is very fast, but if nothing happens strange, I think we can arrive in this position, I hope.
We'll speak to you in 4 laps' time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's hope nothing strange happens. The strangest thing that's just happened on that last lap is that Colin Edwards suddenly lost half a second off his lap time, a 1:25.3 from Edwards then, and he's just lost half a second to Nicky Hayden. This race is as good as over in terms of the win, and it's far from over further behind, where Troy Bayliss, Makoto Tamada, John Hopkins, Shinya Nakano and Loris Capirossi are still having a rare old battle. And that's going to go all the way to the end here. Just under, what, 4 laps to go. 3 and 3/4 laps to go now for these riders. Nicky Hayden with a 2.5 second advantage at the front. We ride here with Loris Capirossi on that Ducati, as I mentioned before, struggling with illness this weekend. And really, well, we've seen it so many times in the past. We don't need reminding what a hard little man Loris Capirossi is. But there, if you did need reminding, there's your evidence. Capirossi there, battling away with that Ducati on those Bridgestone tyres in 10th place. Troy Bayliss here leading Makoto Tamada. It's good to see Troy Bayliss back. Perhaps not quite where we expected him to be. He looks as though he was going to challenge for a podium here this weekend. He often races better than he qualifies, and he qualified in 4th position, which led me to think we were on for a podium position there with Troy Bayliss, but it's not quite gone to plan in the race. And despite that, it's still good to see Bayliss back up in 6th, because that will be his best finish of the season so far by a long, long way. And let's hope that this can be something of a turning point for Bayliss on the Honda. We'll see plenty more from him at Donington Park, another circuit he knows well, of course, in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, Bayliss, in fact, just come through into the start and finish straight. I think he was having a problem, but certainly he didn't look happy at all as he went through the left-hander that brings us back into the start and finish straight. You're probably looking at things on screen now, but certainly Bayliss didn't look happy. I don't think he will be happy with the result, because I think he felt that he could have definitely been on the podium here, but some very, very important points for him.
I don't think Troy Bayliss is happy with anything, is he? But,
no, but a
victory.
win. You're absolutely right there. That's, of course, what winners are all about, aren't they?
Definitely, and Bayliss, a former winner here in the Superbikes, of course. But we ride with another winner, and a multiple winner. He's won 9 out of the last 10 races, including last season. Not since that famous crash at Qatar when he was forced to start from the back of the grid. Valentino Rossi promised after that race that Sete Gibernau would never win another Grand Prix while he was still around. That's not going to happen here today, for sure. As Gibernau behind him in 5th place, Max Biaggi between them in 4th, but Valentino Rossi has done everything necessary here. He's won 6 out of the first 7 races. He finished 2nd in the other one in Estoril. He's going to pick up a podium finish here in 3rd place on his first visit to the Laguna Seca circuit. It's been a good, solid weekend's work for Valentino Rossi. He is a man for the occasion, and you've got to say, on Yamaha's 50th anniversary celebration, he would have liked nothing more than to provide them with yet another win. It wasn't to be, though, for Valentino Rossi in this race. And now, over the final 2 laps, are the most important final 2 laps of Nicky Hayden's career so far, and 57,932 Americans are going to be screaming him all the way.
And Brad Pitt. Right, let's just have a very quick word with Mick doing. He's just going to walk past me, Mick. Mick, he's going to do it, I think, don't you?
Well, let's not say too much. There's 2 laps to go, so... But he's looking good, you know. He did what he needed to do, get out there from the start and try and stay there. And the other guys have tried their best to push him, but he's responded every time. So he's done a superb job. I just hope he can get it home.
Thanks, Mick.
A little bit nervous for him.
I can see that. Yes, thank you.
A long time since Mick Doohan got nervous about a motorcycle race, wasn't it? I don't think he even got nervous when he was riding, Nick.
No, he really was nervous as well, I can promise you that.
Sign of the times, I would say.
Yeah, that's right. It's a big, big day for Repsol Honda, isn't it? They've waited so long for this moment, and they've just told him no laps left, and they've just told him he's leading Colin Edwards by 2.6 seconds. So surely now Nicky Hayden is so close. They're wrapping up the board, they're putting all the numbers away, and everybody now is making their way down to the Repsol Honda pit, which is right at the end of pit lane. Mick Doohan, that's where he was going. Earl Hayden has got cameras surrounding him throughout the race, and I can tell you he's not said a word to anybody.
Well, Colin Edwards is coming under pressure here from Valentino Rossi. Nick, he's been settled in second place for a long, long time, but with 1 lap to go, Valentino Rossi is not happy with third place, and Rossi is stepping up the pace here. He's right on the tail of his Yamaha teammate, and we could see Rossi make an attack here as they come up towards the corkscrew for the final time. This is where Edwards passed Rossi a few laps ago. Is it going to be Rossi this time? He's not going to be close enough as they come up the Rahal straight now. Well, Edwards responding there, and I don't think Rossi is going to be close enough to make an attack here. Nicky Hayden already through the corkscrew for the final time and on his way down to Rainy Curve, one of his favourite corners on this track, and Edwards is going to be just far enough ahead of Valentino Rossi, I think. Just a few corners remaining now of this track. Through Rainy they go into this right-hander. Rossi is trying desperately to get close for maybe an attack.
And here comes Nicky Hayden, Matthew. Nicky Hayden, any moment now, is going to appear into sight. Round the left-hander, here he comes. Nicky Hayden has won the American Grand Prix here at Laguna Seca.
Hayden wins his first Grand Prix. What a performance from the Honda youngster. Colin Edwards makes it an All-American top 2 in second place. Valentino Rossi continues his podium streak in third. Max Biaggi and Sete Gibernau complete the top 5. But what a performance and what a day for Nicky Hayden.
A lot of kissing and hugging going on here from people who are not really used to kissing and hugging, I can tell you.
What a day for Nicky Hayden. Colin Edwards in second place. Valentino Rossi with third extends his lead at the top of the championship to what now? 79 points over Marco Melandri, who crashed incidentally on the first lap or second lap of this race. Hard to remember now, it's so long ago. The stars and stripes fly once again at Laguna Seca. Nicky Hayden, the winner of the US Grand Prix. And I tell you what, Nick, that will go down very, very well in Tokyo. Yamaha's 50th anniversary, Valentino Rossi having streaked to everything over the first part of this championship. Back at Laguna Seca, Honda had never won here before, and Nicky Hayden will have won himself a few Japanese friends, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's what you call spoiling the party, isn't it? You could go to the aquarium, you can have your 50th celebrations, but Nicky Hayden has made it a day for Honda, Repsol Honda. It's a very, very special moment for MotoGP in America. It's a very, very special moment for Nicky Hayden. And I think what is so, so important as well, don't you, that we've got through the race without any major incidents. That was very, very important indeed. And yeah, MotoGP has firmly established itself back in the USA.
But the day belongs to Kentucky, it belongs to the Hayden family, and it belongs to this young man, Nicky Hayden, his first ever MotoGP victory in his first ever Grand Prix appearance on home soil. And that is going to be the first of a few dance moves that we're going to see for the rest of the evening here. Monterey is going to go absolutely wild. And well they might. They fully deserved this Grand Prix to come back here to Laguna Seca, and Nicky Hayden fully deserves to be leading the party. Kevin Schwantz is going to give out the trophy to Valentino Rossi for third place. He shakes hands with Nicky Hayden, and Schwantz, big friends of the Rossi family, of course, a good friend of Graziano Rossi and one of Valentino Rossi's idols. I'm sure that will mean a lot to Valentino Rossi to take that trophy from him. He still has heroes, you know, even though he himself is an idol in the eyes of so many people. Schwantz also gives the trophy for second place to Colin Edwards. But it's Eddie Lawson who will give the trophy to the winner of the Grand Prix, and how fitting as well. The winner of the first 500cc race here in 1988 gives the trophy to the winner of the most recent, the 2004 Red Bull US Grand Prix race winner, Nicky Hayden. And Pete Benson also picking up his first trophy as well as a chief mechanic there for Nicky Hayden and Repsol Honda, their first win since the final round of 2003 when Valentino Rossi took victory at Valencia. So for the first time since 1993 at Laguna Seca, when John Kosinski won here, we will hear the American national anthem to celebrate Grand Prix victory for the United States. Well, you can see just how much that means to Nicky Hayden. Away from the celebrations, the party and the smile, and now a tear streaks down the face of Nicky Hayden's face. And I tell you what, it's great to see passion for racing, passion for Grand Prix, and that means a lot to Nicky Hayden as well as all the other fans here. And that a very, very proud moment for him, and a touching moment as well for all of us.
Yeah, and I've got to say, there's a few people around me, a few people that you know, actually, Matthew, are shedding a few tears because it's a very emotional moment. Nicky Hayden has made such an impact on us all, travelling around the world with his good manners, his pleasant nature. Everybody wanted him to win a Grand Prix, and he's done it. And he's done it here at Laguna Seca. Nicky Hayden wins his first Grand Prix, and he does it in style here at Laguna Seca.